that's what I mean.
I was almost late.
Okay, we're going to call the meeting to order at 6 o'clock. I'd like to thank everybody for coming out, and we'll start the meeting with the pledge.
I know one.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks again for coming out. We'll start the meeting at the agenda. Any additions or deletions or corrections? Dan, anything?
I have nothing. Nothing for me.
Nope. Nope. Okay, entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Ryan. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thanks, Dan. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consent agenda. Minutes from the previous meetings are there. Any questions for the administrator on the consent agenda?
I'll move to approve.
Thanks, Dwayne. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Mel. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. On to visitors to the council. KHP LLC developers for the historic Caston School. Paul and Kenton.
That's fast, thank you.
We're
Good evening, members of the council and members and citizens. I'm Paul Warschauer. I'm one of the two managing members of KHP LLC, and sitting over here is the other manager, Kenton Spading. KHP stands for Casson Historic Properties. We're a limited liability company. Our new company made an offer to purchase the National Register of Historic Places named the Casson School. Our offer was accepted, earnest money was paid, and we plan to close on the property in the coming months. Right now, we are conducting due diligence. The working title of our apartment building is going to be called the Water Tower Place, which if any of you from Chicago know, that's quite a big deal in Chicago. It's right across the street from the big water tower that survived the Chicago fire. I think your tower looks better than theirs. We are grateful to the work of the community members who have kept the building in such good shape. In particular, the CARE group of investors and volunteers who spearheaded the effort over many years to protect the building from demolition and have kept it in pretty good shape. I would personally like to thank Matt Durant from the CETA, Kathy O'Malley Realtor, who kept the pressure on me to make sure I would come and see the building and eventually buy it. We selected the firm of AWH as the architect and historic consultant on this very important adaptive reuse of the historic Casson Public School. AWH brings years of experience working on historic renovations and adaptive reuse across Minnesota, most recently of which is the award-winning historic Old High School in Duluth, Minnesota, which is currently in design and will be developed into 130 market-rate apartments, and has recently received Historic Tax Credit Part 2 approval from the National Park Service that administers the historic tax credits. AWH is teamed with local Widseth Architects out of Rochester, who has been a long-time partner with AWH, working on historic buildings, region-wide from Owatonna to Bemidji. Widseth will perform all of the consulting engineering, the mechanical, the plumbing, structural, and civil engineering. Local construction firms are being interviewed and will be selected within the following months. We are also assured that many local subcontractors will be asked to participate. There is a great deal of misunderstanding about our project. Let me be clear. Our plan is to develop the school into 28 to 30 market-rate apartments for upscale seniors with a mix of 1- and 2-bedroom apartments and some unique split-level apartments. In our plan, there is no Section 8 or government-sponsored affording housing in our plan. I want to repeat, no Section 8, no Section 42, no adjustable income or government-sponsored affordable housing. We will use a variety of funding sources, including the use of federal and state historic tax credits, private equity funding, commercial loans, and some grants. Eventually, I think we'd like to ask the city to consider some TIF funding and perhaps some low-interest loans as well as some variances, but that's down the line. I believe in your packets you all received a flyer that kind of outlines our plan. Was that in your?
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Yep,
okay.
got that, yep.
The one picture I took on the first visit here, the one with the color flowers, And I said, what kind of building is this? It's been closed 20 years, and yet somebody's coming out here and planting flowers and mowing the grass. I gotta commend the people of Casson, that's very rare, but that shows you the pride of ownership that I think these people had. This is all the information we have at this time. Our presentation tonight is by way of introduction. Again, we haven't closed on the building, but we're in the process. We will launch a website soon that'll contain what we view as the rental information and how to place a refundable deposit on the apartment. I will tell you, on the first trip there, I found this, a subtraction study guide from 1925, which has subtraction problems on one side, and then you turn it over and there's the answers. So I thought this is a nice thing that we could put up on the wall along with some other stuff. I don't think any of you were present for that. No? Okay, well, that's a good thing. All right. So that's the end of our formal presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions if you'd like.
Okay, thank you very much for coming. Anybody got any questions for?
I just have two.
Sure.
What is the project that you've done soup to nuts that you're the most proud of in terms of saving a historic building?
What a great question. I particularly like the most recent one, the new home, but I didn't do that from soup to nuts. We bought the building, we stabilized it, we subdivided it, we sold it to one developer, who then sold it to another developer, and that seems to be where the misunderstanding is. That second developer went after affordable housing credit, Section 8, that was not in our plan at all. So, but I took that one from ground all the way to development, so.
Okay. And then my other question is, are you still the world record holder for largest house of cards?
Somebody did their homework. No, I'm not.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, that little punk from Minnesota, actually, no, Michigan, I beg your pardon.
Okay.
I built a 12-story, it was 12 feet high, out of playing cards when I was at Northwestern. And my record stood for about 2 years, and then a kid from Michigan built one that was like 70 stories, but that to me seemed to be cheap. Turns out, he has made his living building card houses now, and he credits me for giving him the little punch in the nose to get him going.
Nice work if you can get it, right?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect. Any other questions? Anybody else?
Well, thank you.
We look forward to seeing the project as you go.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you. Okay, mayor's report. The only thing I have this time is, we'll get some more stuff later on the agenda, but the festival in the park is this weekend. So if you're around, it's usually a great time, and the weather looks like it's gonna be perfect. High 70s, no rain, little breeze. That's perfect for us up here in the north. Maybe in the south that's cold.
Knock wood.
Yeah. Friday night, there's gonna be EMS appreciation from 6 to 9 at the park, and so I think she has people lined up from the state police department unless they're on a call. City of Casson, I know the K-9 unit will be there, fire, ambulance, and we're doing the K-9 demonstration, I think at 7 o'clock. So, it's kind of a way for the community to come out and show their support there, and then the events throughout the weekend, but, check the festival Facebook page or website for the schedule. So, I'd like to thank all the volunteers who put their time into doing that this year. And then just we'd like to thank all of the people, the committee asked me to thank publicly, so we have it on record, all of the donors, who donated monetarily or in kind or with their time this year. We didn't really know till May if we were really gonna be able to go forward with it, because that's when restrictions were coming off and gatherings could get larger and that, so we kinda started really late compared to what we do in past years. And so one little letter went out in June, and we received more monetary support for the festival this year, with just that one little postcard letter than we've ever received before. And I'd like to thank Mr. Fiegel from Fiegel Farms, if you know who Fiegel Farms is here around town. He actually came into the office the other day and said he wanted to support the community and wrote a check for $6,000 to put toward the festival. So, it's just amazing what people do without being asked a lot, and, just like to recognize him for that. So, we made a big banner for him for sponsoring some stuff, so appreciate that. Any questions about the festival at all? Parade is on the northwest side of town this year. Wasn't intended to be a civil war between the east and the west, but apparently we ruffled some feathers when it was over there because of the third, fourth, and fifth project 2 years ago. For 2 years it was on the east, and we moved it back to the west, and now we're getting asked, when does the east get it back? And I said, well, maybe next year we'll have a little contest in May, and a community contest, and see which side gets the parade, so maybe we'll have some fun with that in the future. Public forum, I don't have any cards. So on to committee reports, planning and zoning recommendation for the Marty conditional use permit.
All right, including your package, you've got a couple items on that. Planning and zoning met on Monday night, and they had some good discussion about this, and you've got the council action sheet, which you can go through. The applicant has applied for a conditional use permit for a cumulative placement of about in excess of 1,000 cubic yards in the flood fringe of his property, which is in sort of east side of Cass, and kind of actually just in this direction from City Hall. So it's an industrial, an area of town. Basically, they're going to be looking at building up that area in order to develop the property in the future. There's no actual ask in terms of building at this time. It's just a preliminary step. When we were starting this process, the planning consultants that we work with and city staff identified a few shortfalls or issues with the property. Namely, there were some problems with the platting, to be honest with you, the right-of-way and things like that. And our city attorney and our engineer have worked through most of those issues, and so this process, we're hoping to solve some of those at this time. So with that, planning commission members can discuss it some more. It's relatively straightforward, and the planning and zoning did recommend approval for this after the public hearing was held.
Okay. Anything to add from planning and zoning?
No, I think the staff did a great job identifying the points of consideration, and there wasn't much discussion about that. Mike Marty was in attendance, and he's received all of those points and had no objection at the meeting, so it's pretty straightforward.
Okay. Anything else? Any other questions from anybody? I entertain a motion to approve the Marty conditional use permit.
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Dwayne. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thanks, Dan. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 2, planning and zoning recommendation for fence ordinance revision.
I know this topic had a little more discussion, a little bit of a debate. The planning and zoning has been dealing with a number of issues related to fences and hedges and residential use primarily. So including your package, you've got an ordinance which has some strike-throughs, and it has some underlining. So the underlining is new, additional. We did fine-tune the language in terms of defining what a wall is. Dwayne, I don't know if you saw that in the first paragraph there under fences and walls.
Yep.
So we felt like that would hopefully fulfill what you were looking at. But the language is there. Basically, the biggest issue would be under bullet point number B8 and B9. So it would require conditional use permits if the fence is closer than 3 feet to the property line. At this time, the general practice in Casson has been that with permission, you can place your fence on the property line. That hasn't always been, permission hasn't always been granted, and there's been some debate between residents. But that is something that would be changing. It would require a conditional use permit for the fence to be in place. The reasoning behind that, I think, from the planning and zoning's perspective, is that it has a public hearing process attached to it. And there's notification, both in the newspaper and letters would be mailed out as part of that hearing, so that neighbors would not be caught unawares of that happening. And so that is what was forwarded up from planning and zoning. As I said, there's no perfect process in trying to make good neighbors. Sometimes fences make good neighbors, sometimes they don't. But I'll take any questions you have, and once again, we have members of the committee here tonight, too.
I'm not a big one for, new rules and all that kind of stuff, right? I think less is better, but the one about having the public hearing or whatever it's going to be, or the conditional use permit for a fence that would be located like that will be very valuable to councils in the future, because it's not the two people that agree to it. If me and my neighbor decide, hey, let's just build a fence together, we'll put it around the property line, and we're good with that. But then they sell and move, the next person comes in and says, hey, I think your fence is 4 inches on my property and we want you to move it. That's where the problems come in for the council, is then, so I'm glad that's in there.
That was one of the main discussions that we had was, it's okay now, but how about the future?
Uh-huh.
And I've already had one dispute between neighbors trying to sell this year, where the fence, they used part of our fence to build their fence, and then when they went to sell their house, the neighbor was like, whoa, wait a minute, you're trying to sell part of my yard, so this is a good thing.
Yep.
Anything Anything else? Any other questions?
Well, because I got on my soapbox at the planning and zoning, I don't know if anybody saw it, but one of the discussions was regarding the height of fence in the front yards. And the comment that had been made that it was based on aesthetics, and I have a problem that if we're making a decision based on aesthetics as how things look, there's a lot of other issues within the city that we could be applying enforcement to based on its look. So, I approved this, or voted for this, and I'm voting in favor of this primarily based on the promotion of community and neighborhood and security by limiting the height of the fence in the front yard. I think it's wrong that if we're passing this, if we're basing it solely on aesthetics.
I mean, as someone who doesn't drive a very high raised-up pickup truck, as one of the only people on council that doesn't drive a pickup truck, it's also helpful to have those lower fences for sightline purposes when
Yep.
you're trying to get around a corner, or when there's a kid coming around the corner as well. So, to me, it's more of a safety issue in that aspect than it is an aesthetic issue.
Yep.
I mean, I know you talked about enforcement too, Dwayne.
Yep.
And that was something we did talk about a little bit at the meeting, and we kinda I laid out our process for that, and,
Yep.
you know, it's not a perfect process when it comes to complaints from neighbors. You know, usually it's reactive. You know, there's one situation on Manorville Avenue in particular which sort of sparked this discussion initially, which this may not really fix.
Right.
But, you know, we've got a great police force, and they love to go out and cite people, right, Josh? So, I mean, you know, don't worry, we'll crack down. You're gonna lead the charge, right? But, you know, we want people to get along, but sometimes it's just easier if we make sure that everybody knows what's happening.
Right.
You know.
Good point, though, Dwayne. I agree with you. I agree on that we shouldn't make decisions based on aesthetics. You know, we don't want, it's not our business what color somebody paints their house, or if I like it or don't like it, it's their house, so.
But it's not worded in here that way.
No, I know.
No, but that comment was made that was based on, so.
Sure, yep. All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the new, or updated, ordinance regarding fences and walls.
Make that motion.
Thank you, Ryan. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Thanks, Dan. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. On to old business resolution in support of Minnesota Regional Transportation Planning.
This is something that, I think council discussed at their meeting, last month. They had a presentation, and those folks who had come from that had asked you to take a look at it. We certainly don't have to approve it tonight. It's up to you. It's your choice. I did amend the language in the resolution a little bit based on the fact that we don't know exactly what our amounts would be. So I did sort of make that a little bit more general. But it's up to you. We just wanted to include that, and if we want to hold it over a future meeting or have more discussion on it, we certainly can.
Personally, I think we need to be on board with this, because we have a lot of people in town who, now that the bus is not running daily, can't get to work. And that's one of our biggest issues, right, is transportation. And, you know, if you can find work, but then you don't have the transportation, especially for some of our special needs folks who live here and work at Opportunity Services, they really have no other way to get into town right now. So I'm 100% on board with this to be a part of it. That's just my opinion, but...
I think it's a really good idea. It's gonna help some people that, you know, can't afford one car, needless to say, 2 cars. So if they can use a bus service, they're gonna use it, which is gonna help keep them in our community.
And it should help with some of our development projects that are going on now with some of the apartment buildings that are being proposed. That just falls right in line with that. Transportation helps us. We're industry poor in Casson, so a lot of people leave Casson to go to work, and if we make it easier for people to do that, it'll also make it a more attractive place to live,
Yeah.
So I would make the motion to approve the resolution.
I would second that motion.
Thanks, Dan. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Can I ask just a clarifying question for that? We talked about, thank you, we talked about this possibly coming from ARPA funds, but I'd like to get direction from council as to the source of the funding of this. Otherwise, extraordinary things like this voted on at the council level often are, go through just the council line item. But, you know, what's the intention? Was it gonna be ARPA funds or a line item or some other source?
It does say ARPA funds here.
Oh, it actually, is that a modification you made?
Yeah, I think...
Thank you, I didn't read it.
Yeah,
I
that's all right,
apologize.
Nancy. No, I think that would be the...
I'm sorry.
The other thing that we have to keep in mind is that we would not be putting any money into it until this actually takes effect.
Right.
So, I mean, we are not necessarily, there's,
Right.
I mean, I think at the last meeting, they had mentioned they'd only been to one other city.
Yes.
Which I think was Wabasha, or something like
yep.
that. So there's a lot of other communities that need to buy into this before we're actually on the hook for anything. It's just more of a support.
Right,
idea.
we're just pledging our support,
Yep.
and then if it does go through, we want to use the ARPA funds to do that
Yep.
initial.
Exactly.
That group did come to the Southeast Minnesota League and talk to,
Okay, good.
and it's on all 100 and, city website, you know, for the other cities, so they know about it. So
Okay.
they can
Wonderful.
check into it, and we're trying to get it out there to everybody.
Okay, thank you. Yep, nope, new business, budget and levy dates, changes for December, and the proposed 2022 budget.
I just want to note, and I'll let Nancy take this, she's got her request for council action in there with some scheduling items and things like that, but she's doing a good job. We had really good meetings with all department heads over the last couple of weeks, and, you know, I think we've kind of got our initial proposal. Nancy?
Yeah, council, you know, we usually talk about pegging the dates, because the county needs to know what they are so that they can publicize certain information, but also because there are some dates being moved around, I would ask that you approve the second, third, and fourth bullet points, specifically for those dates, assuming that meets with your approval.
Okay. Well, it makes sense, we have to have it done to report to the county, so we don't really have a choice, but, so we do that. So the bullet points are, approve the December 8th as the date of levy discussion, approve final 2022 budget, and approve the levy resolution, approve December 15th as the backup date, and any additional levy discussion, approve the budget, or approve the resolution if we don't do it on the 8th, and then approve the change of the second December council meeting in December from the 22nd of December to the 15th of December. So it all kind of falls in line. If we don't get it done the 8th, we still have the 15th to do it, and that would be our second meeting of the month, and we've done this every year that I've been involved, and I'm sure Dwayne's been here 50 years. We've been doing it all his 50 years too, so.
Yep.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Thanks, Mel. Do I have a second?
Second to that.
Thanks, Dwayne. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We just want to update on the city website and the calendar that the meeting date change, that'd be great.
And I don't know, did you want to go through any of the budget line items tonight, or would you like to just review it?
I think what we've done in past years, if it's okay with everybody tonight, is we just got this on Friday. It's a lot of information to go through. If everybody can get through it by the next meeting, at least get some high-level questions or clarification, it gives you a little bit more time to go through it. I got through most all of it, because I like numbers, but still have to make my questions and do that. So if that's all right, I think we'll do like we've done in the past and wait till that next meeting to...
Because I just got a paper copy, I like that more than electronic.
Okay.
Just easier
If you
for
do
me
have any
to...
questions
Yeah.
during the next couple of weeks, just let me know or let Nancy know directly.
Can we get some paper copies?
Nancy, looks like
Yeah,
you
we'll
might
get
want to
you-
have some paper copies.
Who
too.
wants a paper copy? Okay, we'll put them in your mailbox, or would you
Okay.
like them delivered to your house?
No, I'll get them from the mailbox.
Mailbox, we'll get them in your mailbox.
Make sure they're printed double-sided, though, you know, we gotta...
6-point font. We don't want any big...
We got scrap paper. Calibri print,
Yeah.
okay.
Thanks, Nancy, appreciate it. Thanks, Tim.
So much easier if it's on paper for me.
We'll move on to the administrator's report.
Sure. And I appreciate, you know, we've got a good staff here, and I was out of the office over the last month some. Got to spend a lot of time with my now month-old child, so that was really, really wonderful, and I still got to participate in a lot of things here, so I'll just kind of run through some updates. You can see sort of what's been going on. Park and Rec's been very busy. The Aquatic Center's been a topic of a lot of discussion. You see some of the financial numbers there. Just wanted to let you know that the paving for Lions Park, the pickleball and the basketball courts has been completed. There was a little bit of additional grading that was required because of drainage, but that's done. Another nice item to note would be that the sales tax exemption for public safety facilities, it was approved by the state of Minnesota. So if there is a project we do look at going forward, it's actually, depending on the size of the project, can be hundreds of thousands of dollars of savings because we're not paying the sales tax then. You had the folks from the Mr. Warschauer and those folks with the new school project. Looking forward to seeing what they have and the project there. There are a lot of very interesting things going on in town with housing and that sort of thing. And then I included a PowerPoint as well underneath my report there, this ARPA, which is, we talked a little bit about it. There are a couple of uses we've talked about. We've talked about the water tower as being a possible use of some of that funding. We could use some of it for EDA-related purposes, and there also is some possibility that we could use some of the money to repay some of the revenue losses that we had last year. We had a revenue loss last year primarily at the Aquatic Center due to the fact that we were not able to have the passes. So basically half of our revenue wasn't accrued there, so something to keep in mind. And then the EMS committee met last week. I think they had a very good discussion with the folks from ICS. One of the things that they're looking at doing would be some additional public engagement sessions. So I think we're looking at probably scheduling up to 3 additional public engagement sessions. And during that, as I mentioned in the packet, I think Councilman Christensen mentioned that we'd like to target next summer, so that we can publicize some of this to get a little bit more feedback and engagement from them. I don't know if there's anything else you guys wanted to highlight, but I thought it was very helpful. They've got some additional information, and they're really fine-tuning their numbers, and that's always good to see. The next phases for us is kind of to make the visuals so that we can kind of show a little bit more what we're talking about, I think. Other than that, later in your package, you do have a personnel item. One of our staff here at City Hall, Amy, has requested the FMLA leave, and I've granted that based on her situation. She's anticipating to run through the month, and then she's planning on being back full-time in September when school starts. She's having some issues with childcare and different things that qualify, and so just wanted to let you know that we are a little short-handed at City Hall at times, so hopefully it doesn't impact anything. But other than that, union negotiations are underway. We had our first meeting with the PA union. We'll have our second meeting next week, and I expect we'll be working with the folks from IBEW later this fall as well. So I'd take any questions anybody has.
What was the question I asked you before the meeting that you were going to update?
I don't remember.
I don't remember either.
Perfect. I'm sure it wasn't that important.
It couldn't have been. Okay. If I think of it, we'll come back to it.
Yeah. Oh, one more thing. You're right. I do have one more thing. It isn't to answer your question.
Okay.
We kind of skipped over it, but I did want to mention it now because it is a budget item. Staff have had a discussion, and based on the feedback, we would like to take a look at adding a planner position at City Hall. We are working with a consultant right now, and they are doing a very good job. I don't think anyone's complaining about their services, but just based on the scope of work that we've had, and Nancy's been working very hard on this, trying to look at funding sources and things like that. So just something to keep in mind. We don't think that it would actually affect the bottom line of the budget in terms of salary, because there are a couple different funds that can be drawn from. We would be utilizing some of that money that's going towards the consultants now instead. We just had such a large scope of projects that we think that it might be time to take a look at that at least. Not necessarily, we don't even know if we offer the position, we might not get the applicants. We want to take a look at it now, because if the council did authorize that, we would want to advertise it as soon as possible, so that by the end of the year, we would know whether we're going to be able to hire staff or if we would continue to look at a consultant type of service. So just something to keep in the back of your minds. It seems like the pace of work is not diminishing. We had a pre-con for the Common Acres project on Tuesday, and they're already out there digging, apparently. So, I don't know, Brandon, you can tell more about that maybe or not, but it's exciting to see, but it's not slowing down, so that's a good thing for us. So that's what I wanted to add. I don't remember if you thought what you were thinking.
I'll come back. Engineers report, anything you want to add? Nothing? Okay. Personnel, we have a few things here. So first one is firefighter leave of absence requests from firefighter Skogerbo. So everybody has that letter in their packet. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Dan. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Ryan, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Leave of absence request from firefighter Mickow. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion.
Thanks, Mel. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Dwayne. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And those two leave of absences are, to be consistent with the firefighter policy, whatever it is, are for up to 12 months. So they have up to 12 months to come back, or they are basically done. So, then we have the third one is accept Lieutenant Alexander's request to step down from lieutenant and just go back to being a firefighter.
I'll make that motion to approve.
Thanks, Dwayne. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Mel. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'd like to thank Lieutenant Alexander for his service as lieutenant, and he's still a valuable firefighter in the department.
One thing just to note about some of those, this is something also the EMS committee did talk about, so you're aware. The fire chief's brought to our attention that he's got some reservations about some of these, the term and length of some of these leave of absences. He's noticed a pattern over the last few years where a lot of folks take that leave of absence and they actually don't ever come back. And so he's concerned, he is taking a look at possibly altering it so that it's a shorter period of time, because he feels like it might be beneficial to either bring someone back to the department a little bit sooner, or have that decision that they might not be coming back sooner as well, because sort of leaves him in the lurch, where he's got positions being held open for a year, and, you know, I think they're staffed at 31 or 32 firefighters, and they're gonna have 26 or something like that because of the number of leaves that they have right now. So obviously, it's something that he's working on, and I think the EMS committee will be helping him with that a little bit more, so.
Sure, just bring it back. Okay, and then a request from the fire chief to fill the lieutenant position. That's a request also, so we have to approve
Request to post.
to post it, yeah.
I'd make the motion that we post it.
Okay, do I have a second? Second. Thanks, Ryan. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. And then let me get to the right one here. This is from Amy Johnson requesting her leave that Tim had discussed, so we wish her the best with her family situation. I'll make the motion to approve her request. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thanks, Dwayne. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Make sure if you talk to Amy, let her know that wish her the best.
I know she appreciates that support.
Yep. Okay, we're to the attorney's report, and we're gonna go ahead and close the meeting pursuant to Minnesota statute 13D.05 to discuss the litigation regarding Blaine's 14th. So we'll close the meeting, and we'll open the meeting when we're done. If you decide to leave and go home for the night, have a great night. Thanks for coming. Otherwise, you can wait outside, and we'll call you back in.
Are we taping this one?
Okay, are you still gonna do